All right. Hey, everybody. It has been a while since I've done one of these videos. I meant to do it for month 2, and I guess we're technically still in month 2 of homeschooling, but we're at the very end of that month. Time flies when you find other things to do besides do these videos. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully, you guys have been enjoying what the girls have been doing because they've been releasing weekly content, and I've mainly been doing like a bunch of the little shorts and things like that. We haven't been recording too much, but I wanted to hop on here just to kind of give you guys an update of what's been going on in month 2 of homeschooling, of unschooling, whatever you want to call it, doing schooling on our own terms. You know, it's funny, I've been getting the question a lot. I was actually working on a story, was it last week, the week before, about US homeschooling numbers and how since the pandemic, we had a spike in homeschooling, and everyone thought we'd have this spike and then everyone would go back to school and things would be like they normally are. And what we found out through our research in the story is that is not what's happening at all. There are more and more parents that are taking their kids out of school for various reasons and wanting to just have more of a role in their education, which I think is a beautiful thing, obviously, because that's what we're doing. But it's prompting a lot of questions when people find out that I am a parent that schools my kid at home. They automatically, first of all, they hear that I have 4 kids, and then they're like, "Oh my gosh, you've got 4 kids." Like, no one can even fathom having 4 kids, which is crazy to me because families used to have a lot more than 4 kids. I don't even think 4 kids is that much, but first of all, they freak out about 4 kids. And they're like, "How do you do anything with 4 kids?" I'm like, "You'd be surprised at what you can do." And then they're like, "How do you homeschool when you have 4 kids?" Well, you guys already know this, but I'm not homeschooling for children right now. I'm homeschooling 2 children. My older boys are doing traditional school. My oldest son is a freshman. He's having a really good time in high school, as we usually do our freshman year. You know, it's like you kind of graduate to that level where you're suddenly cool. And I have another boy that's in 7th grade in middle school, and they enjoy it. I'm kind of surprised by that, but it was important for me as a parent to let them make that decision. And right now, they enjoy what they're doing. They enjoy spending time with their friends. They enjoy football and other activities that they do. And while I think there's a lot more to life than what traditional school offers, I still want them to be able to make that choice. And on the exact opposite side, we have my girls, which you guys know, and we actually just signed them up. There was a discount for the school, which I'll explain in a second, that they go through. There was an opportunity to get 50% off next school year if we signed up right away. And so we've already enrolled them. So we're doing unschooling, homeschooling next year with the girls. We've already made that decision. So we've got, 2 different things. So when people are like, 4 kids, you're homeschooling. First of all, 4 kids, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. You'd be surprised how much they take care of themselves. And right now, I'm only worried about the girls. I wish I could worry about the boys because I would like to be more involved in their learning process, but right now, that's our situation. The second thing is my girls are very independent. So I still have to control the situation. I've always viewed this as me being their guide. I am not their teacher, okay? I don't really think that we have to necessarily have someone standing up in front of a room and telling you certain things. There are so many different resources out there and different ways to learn. The setup that we have, so let's kind of go through so you guys have a better idea of what it's like for me to homeschool or unschool the girls on a daily basis. So let's just kind of go through that. I don't think we've done that in the video before. And since I'm getting all these questions about homeschooling, let's just do it. So I have chosen not to try to replicate what the schools are doing, just doing it at home. And a lot of people think that's what homeschooling is. You have to have a room set aside and maps and, fun letters with characters on their faces like you have in elementary school. Like you've got to replicate that at home. I don't think that's school. I think You should be learning through living, hence the name of our YouTube channel. And there's so many different ways you can do that. So this is what we're doing now. I'm not married to it. We could change it later. The girls seem to really like this format, and that's what I'm basing things off of. Do I believe that they're learning? And do I have ways to prove to myself that they're learning? That's important to me. And are the girls having fun? Does this actually work within our lifestyle? So, typical day. The girls, they used to get up really early. Now they really don't. Usually both boys are already at school before the girls are technically out of bed, even though they may have woken up a couple hours prior. They kind of get up and do their own thing. I don't make people get up at a certain time. Well, the boys, my middle son has to, he's got to catch the bus and, they've got school, times that they've got to deal with. But the girls kind of do their own thing. We are using some apps for learning. So Duolingo is a popular app. They're learning Spanish through Duolingo. You've got to check in on that app every day. So they've chosen to kind of do that in the morning, perhaps while they're still in their pajamas and in bed. And then we are using another homeschooling system called Accelus, ACCELUS, I think it is. It's also called Power Homeschool. So if you look up either of those, and this was the second program that we've tried. The first one that we tried, I think, was geared towards a little bit older kids, and it didn't walk you through the lessons like Power Homeschool does. But essentially, this is an online way of learning. It's not live with teachers, but they've got really good videos that explain whatever you're learning about. It's kind of like you're in a classroom, but it's much more interactive. There's great graphics. Like they recently redid everything. And so, at least for my girls, and I think probably for anyone in the elementary and maybe even middle school age, I think it's a great way to learn. So, they do multiple lessons every day. There's 6 different categories of subjects that they do every single day. And so there's a video on whatever they're learning, and then they do their own quiz at the end. They can retake the quiz. And a lot of times they do because maybe they're not happy with the grade that they got because it shows on their grade right away. Do they want that grade to stick? Do they want to retake the quiz, which I believe it gives you different questions if you retake it? And I think that's how learning should be. I don't think learning should be, you've got a test on this date. That's my teacher voice. And you take the test and you just had a bad day, you didn't get a chance to study, or you've got other stuff on your mind, and then suddenly your whole grade goes down, isn't the most important thing that our kids are learning. I think it is. And so I like this kind of flexibility we have. On the back end of that program or, that app that we're using, I can see everything. I can see everything they're learning. I can see what questions they got wrong. So if I want to go back and talk to them about various things, but honestly, my girls are really good about doing this on their own. So that's how they get a lot of their core subjects. Now, I will say over the last couple weeks, they are learning something new in math. It's like long division in math. And that's one of the few math schools, math skills I remember. So I've been helping them a lot this past couple weeks with their math. We've got these really big whiteboards in my studio where I work. And they've been coming in and doing long division math, and then I check over their work. So it has been more involved recently, but it's only when they're struggling with something. And most of the time, they can figure this out. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's good for our kids to struggle with some things and have to figure it out on their own. Now, if they can't, again, I'm their guide. They can come back to me and talk to me and tell me they've got problems, and we work it out. We do this a lot with writing as well. So you guys know we do these questions, and I've been really working with them on not just what is your question, but make sure whatever you're writing about, you're actually answering your question. I know that sounds really simple, but in the beginning, they weren't really doing that. They were giving me a lot of kind of facts. I also want to make sure they're actually understanding what they're writing. Are you just copying from some text? Because a lot of kids do that. They're just copying words. I'm like, do you even understand what this word is? So now the girls understand I have to actually know what I'm saying. I have to know this topic. I mean, the whole point is to actually learn something with these questions, these everyday questions that you have like in your head, and they're kind of fleeting moments because we don't have time to research this stuff. This is what I want them to focus on now. What are some of these questions that you come up with each day? We're also focused on finding multiple sources, not just going with one single source, which in school, at least until you're like at the collegiate level, you're just pulling from a single textbook. What is that teaching our kids? What the government or schools or whatever, they know everything and you shouldn't go out there and um, take a look at independent information. So I'm not a big fan of that either. So with the girls and their questions, we're pulling from multiple resources. We've had to have the talk of, listen, not everything on the internet is true. Most of it is not true. So how do you get back to primary sources? What does that look like? How do you know, if something kind of looks wrong, how can you kind of, detect that so you're not just taking information that's inaccurate online? So, yeah, so they do their core subjects. On certain days, we do those questions. They are doing piano through an app. They used to do some piano in person, but now we're doing it through an app. So that gets them, working on their music skills a little bit. And that's the big thing. Oh, we have the in-person classes. So I do think that having some connection with other kids, other teachers, because they may want to go back to regular school someday. I don't know. I don't think so. They really enjoy this. It seems to be working out really well for our family. But in the back of my mind, I'm always like, well, what if they choose to go back to regular school? Well, then I have to make sure that they're at least at whatever grade level they should be at, which I wanted to do all along. And I need to make sure too that they're comfortable with that kind of format. So for us, we're using a service called Outschool. It's just outschool.com to have some live interaction with teachers and other classmates. So they have a Spanish class that they do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then on Tuesdays, they have a baking class, which I know in their videos they talk about constantly. They love baking. And what's interesting about that too is that has led them, it's a sense of independence. Okay. And you can apply that sense of independence in other areas of your life, not just baking, not just opening up a cookbook and, having that autonomy to figure out what you want to eat. But if you've got the confidence to do that, in theory, you can use that in other areas of your life. And I'm starting to see that happen. Not only are they making other things in the kitchen, sometimes much